Sunny and Piglet. Team Liquid snagging a victory there, and Dom said it in the cast, Seda said it in the cast, that they ended it relatively cleanly. Yep. A person that I want to pinpoint right off the bat, though, is FeniX, and I want to talk about him pretty thoroughly in this postgame, only because I think coming into this season, all eyes were on FeniX and Piglet, saying these are the two guys who are the mainstays of the roster. Well, Dominate was there at the very beginning of the split, but these are the two guys who are going to have to lead these rookies, these newer players through the season. And Piglet had been performing well in the losses, but a lot of criticism was being thrown FeniX's way for not having put up the kind of performance that, netted him that 1-2 slot for mid laners in NA of Summer Split.
Yeah, which is interesting, right? He had some highlightable misplays, which I think underrated his stock a lot, and he also didn't look very happy on the team, which I think contributed to it as well. But if we look statistically, actually, last year he was competing with Bjergsen for being like the highest damage mid laner in NA. This year, he's at 681 damage per minute before that last game, which is second in the league, with GBM being first. So his damages in fights has been huge. He hasn't even been getting the kills, and because he had the misplays, he's underrated. But honestly, I think FeniX is actually still playing at a very high level.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that he hasn't been making too many flashy plays. He's playing things like Lux and the Corki recently, so he's not having these standout performances. Because before it was the Azir guy. We're seeing this guy like run in with Victor and blow people up, or have the Azir play where he's killing 4 dudes under a turret, and everybody's respecting him for that. And now he's kind of a backline player where he's not the one in the front that's outplaying people. He's actually being a consistent force on the team, and that might actually play into their advantage because we're not really paying attention to FeniX. He's still dealing that type of damage, and you're focusing Piglet.
Right, the likes of Lux and Corki suggest that you're not going to get the flashy Azir plays, but the fact that he is pumping out the consistent damage, he is showing up to the team fights, is what ultimately is allowing them to net these wins. So I think that this game in particular, the 7-0-3 Corki, was a much more accurate representation of the actual level that he's playing at. Granted, it's against Renegades. And now this is kind of the next step of the process here. And talking about a victory by Team Liquid over Renegades, I want to transition over to the Renegades side. Yeah. 1-9 now. Things are looking extra scary, especially given the fact that Echo Fox had a 2-0 weekend. Now all of a sudden, a team that you entered the week tied with is 2 games up on you.
And I think that that's pretty grim for Renegades. They're sitting there going, well, if we beat them head-to-head, then we'll be able to have that and get a little bit higher in the standings, and things will come together. Their roster is still a little bit in flux with what happened in the bot lane, and then they brought in Flaresz in the top. So it's been up in the air for them. It's not been a good season for them at all. But Echo Fox are now finding their feet, and that's even scarier because they're about to get left in the dust.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's about Renegades being left in the dust, even with making the roster changes. Because if we think about the whole story of Renegades through the Challenger Series, boot camping in Korea for months before the season, but then they don't have freeze for a lot of it, and by the time they do get freeze, 2 other people are different. They have a different top lane or different support. So like the team is still in pretty big flux, and maybe they have some talent, but it's not showing through.
Right, and they've got, and at this point you got 8 games left, right? And we just mentioned there's that 2-game gap between the next team. Now all of a sudden that 7, 8, 9 spot is where it's looking extra competitive between these teams that are all resting around 6 wins. We've got the next 2 of them playing in our coming game, Dignitas versus Team Impulse.
Yeah, I also think there's actually some teams in that 6th place spot right now where the ones you're talking about, the 7, 8, 9, could actually sneak into that.
That's very true. Very true. Yeah, you've got Team Liquid 5-5 now matching energy with their loss today. I mean, that whole bunch of teams is definitely one that's going to be that we should rather be keeping our eyes on.
Yeah.
Back to the game, though. A somewhat tangential and comedic bit. We saw the Nautilus Malphite matchup in the top lane. We saw the Malphite come out with a very early Banner of Command, matched by Nautilus, Lourlo on that Nautilus, and then he comes back, he returns fire with the Zerat portal. I mean, what an itemization choice.
I personally love it. Like,
it's a common build.
I'm seeing it more and more. I saw it in solo queue. It was in Europe as well that you were talking about. Because of the current state of structures and the fact that a lot of them are weaker, the tier 2s are weaker, the tier 1s are weaker after you at the beginning of the game, that Zerat portal and Banner of Command are actually more effective against these turrets in terms of relative strength from before.
Yeah, and in the specific matchups, right? Nautilus into Malphite is the time where if you're Nautilus, you actually do the Banner Zerat build. I also like it on Nautilus. It is the highest resistance item you can buy in the game. No other item will grant you 120 resistances.
Total.
Add in
Okay.
armor and magic resistance, 60 of both.
Nice.
So it's also a good Udyr item if anyone wants to.
Naturally,
Yeah.
yeah. Movement speed around turrets, and then just a ton of resist. It's
Yeah.
a fabulous item for Udyr.
beautiful.
That's
Helps you
why
die?
Jat's a fan of it.
You gank your lane, put down a portal.
No, it's, I mean, and there was a fantastic illustration of your point in that the Nautilus Malphite matchup is where you want to build it, and we saw it in the bottom lane. Granted, Team Liquid was ahead at this point, but Lourlo, with both of them having equal items essentially, was the one winning out in that matchup because Malphite has a much harder time clearing those waves. So just fun itemization all around, a very solid victory for Team Liquid picked up there. It's it might be panic time for Renegades moving into the latter half of the split. There's more love to go around though, and this time it's from Kitsune, who's chosen Reignover to be their duo Q, or dynamic Q rather, not duo Q anymore. And they chose Reignover because I'd like to go on romantic roams with him through the enemy jungle as his support. I would too.
She like some danger there, the enemy jungle.
Exactly, living life on the edge, little bit like
Get that
Bonnie and Clyde
adrenaline.
kind of scenario. I don't really know. Anyway, we've got one more game coming up, so stick around for Team Dignitas versus Team Impulse right after this break.